Hello all, welcome to this chapter on simple compound interest including annuity and applications. By the end of this chapter, the students are expected to understand what is interest, the concept of interest, compound interest, simple interest, and how to compute these simple interest and compound interest. One is expected to know the concept of annuity, present value, future value, and their applications in leasing, capital expenditure, and valuation of bond. Let's start with interest. What is interest? Interest is the extra money that we pay for borrowing the money or the amount that we need. The money that is borrowed is called principal. Many a times when we want to start a business or you want to renovate your house, you need some extra money. So that money we do not have with us, so we borrow it from a bank or from a lender. And since we are going to use their money, we have to pay some extra money along with the money that we have borrowed. This extra money is called as interest. And this interest can be categorically divided as simple interest, compound interest, continuous compounding, nominal and effective rate of interest. Let's get acquainted with the terms that we use in this chapter. So the useful terms here are principal, which is denoted by capital P. What is principal? The money lent, borrowed or invested is called the principal. The next is interest, which is denoted by capital I. What is interest? As we just spoke about, it's the extra money paid in addition to the principal. It is called the interest. What is amount? Denoted by A. It is nothing but the principal plus the interest. That is the total money handed over is called the amount. The next is term, denoted by N. What is N? It represents the duration of time in years for which the principal is lent, borrowed or invested. And it is always expressed in years. The next is rate of interest, represented as R%, and it is always per annum, that is per year. Now the rate of simple interest is always given as a percentage, and it is written in general form as R% per annum. To understand this, suppose for example, simple interest of 6% per annum. What does that mean? Simple interest of 6% per annum means if I borrow 100 rupees for 1 year, the interest I pay is rupees 6. That means for 100 rupees that I borrow, this 100 rupees is nothing but the principal, and if I borrow it for 1 year, I have to pay extra how much? 6 rupees. Now here you need to keep in mind a few points. That is, we know that 1 year consists of 12 months, and we assume that 1 year consists of 365 days. So we have to express N always in terms of year. So if a principal P is invested for 8 months, then what will be N? 8 upon 12, which is nothing but 2 upon 3 year. Number of months divided by 12 will give us the value in terms of year. Suppose the principal is invested for 219 days, then what will be your 9? 219 divided by 365, which will be nothing but 3 upon 5 year. If the month name is not given, we assume it to be 30 days. So if I take a loan on 24th February 2014 for 2 months, then it will be due on 24 April 2014. Now keep in mind 2014 is not a leap year. But if this loan is taken for 60 days, then the actual number of days in each individual month has to be considered. So the 60th day from 24th Feb can be calculated, counted or considered as shown here. Since 2014 is not a leap year, February will have 28 days. So in the month of Feb, you have 4 days. 28 minus 24, that gives you 4 days. And March has 31 days. You have borrowed it for 60 days. So 31 plus 4 gives you 35. So 60 minus 35 is equal to 25. So the due date would be 25th of April 2014. Now we start with simple interest. What is simple interest? It is nothing but the money or the extra amount paid by the borrower to the lender or investor for the time value of the principal. We are using their money, so we are paying an extra amount in the form of interest. And simple interest is always calculated on the principal, denoted by capital I. So simple interest, we will denote it as capital I. So if you look at the formula to find out the simple interest, it is given as I equal to P into R into N upon 100. And what is the amount that I am going to return? That will be principal plus interest, which can be written as P plus P into R into N upon 100. And if I take out P as common, I get inside the bracket as 1 plus R into N upon 100. So this is how you find out your amount. Suppose we need to find out the principal. Then we can use this formula, I into 100 whole upon R into N. Same way, if I want to find out the rate of interest R, that can be calculated using the formula I into 100 upon P into N. If I want to find out the value of N, that can be found out using the formula I into 100 upon P into R.
Now let's apply whatever little concepts we have learned so far with the help of example number 1. Find the interest and amount in the first case when principal is equal to 1050, rate is given as 7% per annum and time is 4.5 years. So let's make a note of all the information given to us. Principal means P, so P equal to 1050, R equal to 7% per annum, N equal to 4.5 years, which can be written as 9 upon 2 years. How do we get this? 4 into 2, 8, 8 plus 1, that is 9. So we get 9 upon 2 years. First we'll find out the interest and then the amount. To find the interest, we use the formula I is equal to P into R into N upon 100. By substituting the values, we get in the numerator 1050 into 7 into 9, and in the denominator we get 100 multiplied by 2. Upon simplification, we get interest as rupees 330.75. So, to get the value of amount, we use the formula P plus I, which is rupees 1050 plus 330.75, which gives us as 1380.75. So, the amount is rupees 1380.75. Now, one more similar problem with a little variation. What is the principal given? Rupees 1560. Rate of interest 10% per annum, and time is given to us as 3 years and 4 months. Remember, time, that is N, should be in terms of years. Here, principal is given as rupees 1560, rate of interest 10%, and N is 3 years, 4 months. So 4 months has to be converted into years, which can be done as 4 upon 12. So 4 upon 12 is nothing but 1 upon 3. So your N value will be 3 plus 1 upon 3. That gives us 10 upon 3 years. Now same way, we'll use the formula I is equal to P into R into N upon 100 to get the value of the interest. By substituting the value of P, R and N, we get the interest as 1560 into 10 into 10 whole upon 3 into 100, which gives us rupees 520. And therefore, our amount is nothing but 1560 plus rupees 520, which gives us as rupees 2080. Now the third type, with a little more variation, principal is given to us as rupees 6250, rate is given to us 1% per month, and time is 73 days. Here, rate should be per annum, time should be in terms of years. When we are applying the formula to find out the interest, we have to keep in mind the rate is always per annum and time is given in terms of years. We have to convert rate 1% per month into per annum, and 73 days has to be converted into years. So P is given to us as 6250 and rate is 1% per month. So this will be equivalent for per annum, it will be 1 into 12% per annum. So your R is 12% per annum. What is N? 73 days is equivalent to 73 upon 365 year, which is equal to 1 upon 5 year. So our P is 6250, R is 12% per annum, and n is 1 upon 5 in terms of years. So substituting all these values in I equal to P into R into n upon 100, we get 6250 multiplied by 12 into 1 whole upon 5 into 100. The value of n is 1 upon 5, so 5 will go to the denominator. On simplification, we get rupees 150 as our interest. So finally, the amount paid will be equal to interest plus principal, that is rupees 6250 plus rupees 150, which gives us rupees 6400. Now we move on with question number 2. What sum of money will yield an interest of rupees 138.75 at 8% per annum in 3 years and 1 month? Here, what is given to us? 138.75 is the interest, R is 8% per annum, and 3 years and 1 month is nothing but N. So what sum of money will yield an interest of rupees 138.75 at 8% per annum in 3 years and 1 month? Means we have to find out the principal P. So here P is unknown to us. So N, which is 3 years and 1 month, to be converted into years, this will be 3 years plus 1 upon 12. 1 month is equivalent to 1 upon 12 years. So 3 plus 1 upon 12 will give us 37 upon 12 years, that is N. Now as mentioned earlier, to find the value of principal, we use the formula I into 100 whole upon R into N. What is I given to us? 138.75 into 100, that is your numerator, and the denominator R is given to us 8%, so it will be 8 into 37 upon 12, which happens to be the value of N. We can take 37 upon 12, which is in the denominator, to the numerator, hence it will become 12 upon 37. So we have rupees 138.75 into 100 into 12 whole upon 8 into 37, which on simplification will give us rupees 562.50. So now we have learnt how to find the principal. Now let's see how to find rate percent. What is given to us? Rupees 1,800 amounts to rupees 2,250 in 2.5 years. Find the rate percent. What is 1,800? Principal. Amounts to rupees 2,250 means amount is given to us as 2,250 and 2.5 years is N. What is unknown to us? Rate of interest. So since amount and principal are given to us, with the help of amount and principal we can find out what is the interest. So interest is amount minus principal, that is equivalent to saying 2,250 minus 1,800 equal to rupees 450. So we have interest, we have principal, we have the value of N. So we use the value of R, or the formula of R, which is equal to I into 100 whole upon P into N. By substituting all the given values, what do we get R as? In the numerator, I is 450 into 100 into 2 whole upon 1,800 into 5. Now we know that 2.5 years can be written as 5 upon 2 years. So N is in the denominator. So in the denominator we have 5 upon 2. And hence when we convert the division into multiplication, it becomes 2 upon 5. So we get R is equal to 450 into 100 into 2 whole upon 1,800 into 5 percentage. After simplification, we get this value as 10%. So what is the rate per annum? 10% in this case. Now let's see what compound interest means. Suppose we have deposited some amount in the bank or in the post office. The interest which the banks and the post offices and even finance companies charge or pay is not the simple interest but compound interest. We must know the difference between compound interest and simple interest. Now what is the difference between simple interest and compound interest? What happens in simple interest? The principal remains constant throughout. But in case of compound interest, it goes on changing periodically. That means if my principal is 100 rupees and the rate of interest is 6% per annum, what will be the interest for 1 year? P is 100. P into N is 1 into R is 6 upon 100. The interest will be 6 rupees. So for the next year, for the second year, what will be the principal? 100 plus 6, that is 106 will become the principal for the second year. That means in case of compound interest, the principal goes on changing periodically. So, in case of compound interest, the principal for the second year will be the sum of the principal for the first year and the simple interest for the first year, and so on. Now, for a given principal, rate and time, generally the compound interest is more than the simple interest. For the first year, simple interest and compound interest will be same, provided the interests are calculated yearly. So, we have to remember that compound interest is more than the simple interest. Now, what is the formula to find out the compound interest? We know that interest is nothing but amount minus principal. So, compound interest will be amount minus principal, which can be written as P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to n minus P. So, here in compound interest, what is the amount? P into 1 plus R upon 100 raised to the power n. Now, from this, if I take out P common, what will I have in the bracket? P, open the bracket, 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to the power n minus 1. So, this is the formula to find out the compound interest. Now, we have to keep in mind that the compound interest can be calculated on yearly basis, half yearly basis, quarterly or monthly. So, the interest can be compounded yearly. That means, when I say interest can be compounded yearly means the interest is calculated once in a year. Half yearly means the interest is calculated twice in a year. Similarly, quarterly means after every 3 months, interest is calculated. So, when I say interest is compounded quarterly means every 3 months the interest is calculated. How many quarters are there in a year? 4. So, interest is calculated in a year 4 times. So, your n or the period becomes 4. And if it is monthly, it will be calculated 12 times in a year. So, in short, if my principal is P, R% is the rate of compound interest per annum, N is the time expressed in years, then for the interest compounded annually, that means you are going to find the interest once in a year, your amount will be calculated as P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to the power N. But if the interest is compounded half yearly, then the amount is calculated using the formula P into 1 plus R upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 2n. We are writing 2n because half yearly means in a year there are 2 half years. So you are going to calculate the interest twice. So 2n. Same way you have 2 in the denominator also, that is R upon 2 into 100. Similarly, if the interest is compounded quarterly, your amount will be equal to P into 1 plus R upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power 4n. So, if your n is 2 years, how many times interest is calculated? 4 into 2, 8 times. For the interest compounded monthly, amount is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 12 into 100 whole raised to the power 12n. That is, using this formula, you can find out the amount when compounded monthly. Now, each of the above formulas that we have just mentioned, they give you the corresponding amount. So, if at all you want to find out the compound interest, you will have to use the formula I is equal to A minus P. Now, let's learn how to apply all the above formulas which we have just seen. Find the amount received when a sum of rupees 500 is invested at 12% per annum for 2 years. If the interest is compounded annually, half yearly, quarterly, monthly. First, let's make a note of what is given to us. P is given to us, which is equal to rupees 500. Rate of interest per annum is given to us, that is R equal to 12%, and N is given to us as 2 years. Let's look at the interest when it is compounded annually. And what is the formula that we use? Amount is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to N. So when we substitute all the values in this formula, we get amount is equal to 500 bracket 1 plus 12 upon 100 whole raised to the power 2, which is equivalent to rupees 500 into 1 plus 0.12 raised to the power 2. Why? Because we know that 12 upon 100 is nothing but 0.12. So, 1 plus 0.12 will give us 1.12 and the square of 1.12 is 1.2544. So this number will multiply by 500 which gives us rupees 627.2. So what is the amount when the interest is compounded annually? Rupees 627.2 when the principal is 500. Now let's see when the interest is compounded half yearly. So when the interest is compounded half yearly, how is the formula of amount given? Amount is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 2n. Now we know why we write 2. So what will be the amount? 500 into 1 plus 12 upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 2 into 2. That gives us 500 into 1 plus 12 upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 4. Now 1 plus 12 upon 2 into 100 is nothing but 1 plus 0.06. So we have to find out 1.06 whole raised to the power 4. So that gives us 500 into 1.26247,696. When we multiply these two, we get the answer as rupees 631.238. Correct up to 3 decimal places. Now when the interest is compounded quarterly, the formula used is amount equal to P into 1 plus R upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power 4n. After substituting the values of P, R and N, we get A is equal to 500 into 1 plus 12 upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power 4 into 2, which gives us 500 into 1 plus 12 upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power 8. That is 500 into 1.03 whole raised to the power 8. The value of 1.03 whole raised to the power 8 is 1.266770081. So when this value is multiplied by 500, we get rupees 633.385, correct up to 3 decimal places. Now when the interest is compounded monthly, we use the formula A is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 12 into 100 whole raised to the power 12n. So when we put the values of P, R and N, we get 500 into 1 plus 12 upon 12 into 100 whole raised to the power 24. So whatever is there in the bracket gives us 1 plus 0.01 whole raised to the power 24. So the value of 1 plus 0.1 whole raised to the power 24 is 1.269734649, and when this value is multiplied by 500, we get it as rupees 634.867, correct up to 3 decimal places. Now we take a question where we have to find the rate of interest. The question says Sudhir gave rupees 5,000 to his friend with the understanding that he would be paid back rupees 10,000 at the end of 7 years. Find the rate of compound interest to be calculated on half-yearly basis. What is given to you? 14th root of 2 is given as 1.05. So you're going to use this value in your calculation. Now compound interest is calculated on half-yearly basis. That means compounded half-yearly. So what is the formula to find out amount? A is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 2n. Now here amount is given to us as 10,000 and principal is given to us 5,000. So substituting all these values, we get 10,000 equal to 5,000 into 1 plus R upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 2 into 7. So when we take 5,000 on the left hand side, it goes to the denominator, because on the right hand side there is a multiplication sign between the first term, that is 5,000, and the second term, that is 1 plus R upon 2 into 100 whole raised to 2 into 7. So on the left hand side we get 10,000 upon 5,000, and on the right hand side we get 1 plus R upon 200 whole raised to the power 14. Now 10,000 upon 5,000 is equal to 2. So we have 2 on the left hand side, and what do we have on the right hand side? 1 plus R upon 200 whole raised to the power 14. Now we'll take the 14th root on both sides. So when we take 14th root on both the sides, it's nothing but saying 2 raised to 1 upon 14. When I take 14th root on the right hand side, I can say 1 plus r upon 200 raised to 14 whole raised to 1 upon 14. So 14 and 1 upon 14 will get eliminated and you get 1 on the right hand side. That is the power of 1 plus r upon 200 raised to 1. What do I get on the left hand side? 2 raised to 1 upon 14 can be written as 14th root of 2. That is this. Now we know that 14th root of 2 is given to us as 1.05. So the value on the left hand side is 1.05. And what do you have on the right hand side? 1 plus r upon 200. So the 1 on the right hand side, if I take it to the left hand side, I get the answer on the left hand side as 0.05, and what remains on the right hand side? R upon 200. So what will be R equal to? 0.05 into 200, which is nothing but 10%. So we know how to get the value of R.
Now, let's see how to find the principal if the compound interest payable annually at 10% per annum for 2 years is rupees 420. So, what are we given here? What does 420 represent? It represents the compound interest and it is not the amount. Since the compound interest is payable annually, the formula that we are going to use is amount is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to the power n. And we know that the formula for interest is A minus P, that is amount minus principal. Why are we using this formula? Because interest is given to us as 420 rupees. We know that A is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to the power n. So we're going to substitute for A on the right hand side. So we get the expression or equation I equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 raised to the power n minus P. So substituting the value of I, R and n, we get 420 equal to P into 1 plus 10 upon 100 whole raised to the power 2 minus P. Now what is in the bracket? We'll simplify first. 10 upon 100 is 1 upon 10 and 1 upon 10 is nothing but 0.1. So 1 plus 10 upon 100 will give us as 1.1. Therefore we get the equation 420 equal to P into 1.1 whole square minus P. And what is 1.1 whole square? Nothing but 1.21. So we get 420 equal to P into 1.21 minus P. The right hand side, both of them are like terms, so we can simplify, and thus we get on the right hand side 0.21 times P. That is, we get the equation as 420 equal to 0.21 times P. 0.21 can be written as 21 upon 100. So we get 420 equal to 21 upon 100 into P. So what is P equal to? 420 into 100 upon 21. After simplification, we get P as rupees 2000. What annual rate of interest compounded annually doubles an investment in 7 years? Given to us, the 2 raised to 1 upon 7 is equal to 1.104090. This means 7th root of 2 is equal to 1.104090. What we have to find out? What annual rate of interest compounded annually? So we want to find out the rate of interest. Now it is given to us. What is given to us? The investment is becoming 2 times after 7 years. So if the principal is P in the beginning, then amount after 7 years becomes 2P. So here we'll use the formula amount is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to the power n. Now for sake of simplicity, R upon 100 can be written as I. So in the formula, P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to n can be written as P into 1 plus I whole raised to n, where I is R upon 100. Now according to the given condition, principal P becomes double. That is, if the principal be P, then amount after 7 years will become 2P. And what is the principal? Substituting these values, we have 2P equal to P times 1 plus I whole raised to n. If the P on the right hand side is taken to the left hand side, it becomes 2P upon P. So what remains on the left hand side? 2. And on the right hand side, we have 1 plus I whole raised to n.
What is n here? 7. So we get 2 equal to 1 plus I whole raised to 7. Now the power on the right hand side is 7. So we are going to take 7th root on both the sides. When I take 7th root on both the sides, that means on the left hand side I have 2 raised to 1 upon 7, and on the right hand side I have 1 plus I. The value of 2 raised to 1 upon 7 is given to you in the question, which is nothing but 1.104090. That is, the 7th root of 2 is 1.104090. So we replace 2 raised to 1 upon 7 on the left hand side by 1.104090, and on the right hand side you have 1 plus I. So which will give us I is equal to 1.104090 minus 1, which is nothing but 0.104090. So what is the value of I? Value of I is 0.104090. Now we know that I is nothing but R upon 100. So replace I by R upon 100. So what will be your R? 0.104090 into 100, which gives us 10.41. The required rate of interest is 10.41% per annum.
Now we come to effective rate of interest. Let's understand the concept of effective rate of interest. When interest is compounded more than once a year, the given annual interest rate is referred to as the nominal rate. The rate of interest which is actually earned on the principal in 1 year is called the effective rate of interest. And if the interest is compounded more than once a year, the effective interest rate for a year exceeds per annum interest rate. And if the interest is compounded annually, then the effective rate of interest will be same as the given rate of interest. Now let's see how to find effective rate of interest. You can use the formula I is equal to P into capital E into T, where I is the amount of interest, E is the effective rate of interest in decimal, and T is a time period, that is N. And we know that P stands for principal amount. Now, when finding out effective rate of interest, we have to keep in mind certain points. That is, when we are calculating the effective rate of interest, the duration, the number of years N has to be taken equal to 1. So this is one point that we need to keep in mind. What is that? N is equal to 1 while calculating the effective rate of interest. And we know that interest is always expressed as a percentage. Therefore, effective rate of interest has to be calculated for the principal P equal to rupees 100. So your principal will be 100, N will be equal to 1. And also we need to make a note that effective rate of interest is not related to the amount of principal. It is related to the interest rate and frequency of compounding the interest. So effective rate of interest does not depend on amount of principal, but it depends on the rate of interest and frequency of compounding the interest. Now, we can arrive, or you can calculate the effective rate of interest using one more version of the formula, that is E equal to 1 plus I whole raised to N minus 1, or I equal to P into E into T, which we just saw above. In this formula, E equal to 1 plus I whole raised to N minus 1. E stands for effective rate of interest. I, you know, is equal to R upon 100. So, we can use either E equal to 1 plus I whole raised to N minus 1 or I equal to P into E into T. One of the two formulas can be used to calculate the effective rate of interest.
Now let's see how to apply the knowledge of effective rate of interest with the help of an example. What do the examples say? Find the effective rate of interest per annum equivalent to the nominal interest rate at 6% compounded monthly. So first what we'll do, we'll find out the amount of interest. Interest is nothing but amount minus P, that is this. And how is amount given as? P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to N. So amount of interest can be P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to N minus P. Now we know that P has to be 100. So P is 100 into 1 plus R is 6 upon 12 into 100 raised to 12. n is 1 here again. So it's not 12 into something, that is 12 into 1 only, because here n should be equal to 1 and p should be equal to 100 when you're talking about effective rate of interest. So we get 100 into 1 plus 6 upon 12 into 100 whole raised to 12 minus 100. So what does this give us? 6 upon 12 is nothing but 1 upon 2. So we get inside the bracket 1 plus 1 upon 2 into 100 whole raised to the power 12. When we simplify what is inside the bracket, we get 201 upon 200 whole raised to the power 12. 201 divided by 200 is nothing but 1.005. So we get on the right hand side 100 times 1.005 whole raised to the power 12 minus 100. The value of 1.005 whole raised to the power 12 is 1.061677812. So we have E equal to 100 into 1.061677812 minus 100. The first term gives us 106.1677812 minus 100. So after subtraction we get E equal to 6.1677812, which can be approximately written as 6.17% per annum. So this is your effective rate of interest, which is greater than your nominal rate of interest, that is 6%. Let's look at one more example, which says rupees 5,000 is invested in a term deposit scheme that fetches interest 6% per annum compounded quarterly. What will be the interest after 1 year? What is effective rate of interest? So first we'll find out the interest after 1 year. Here P is 5,000. Your R is 6% per annum compounded quarterly. So what will be your interest? We can use the formula I is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to n minus P. So when I remove P common from both the terms, I get P times, open a bracket, again open a bracket, 1 plus R upon 100 whole raised to n minus 1. Please take care of the sequence of the brackets. Here P is 500, R is 6%. We're calculating the interest for 1 year. So it will be 5,000 into 1 plus 6 upon 4 into 100 whole raised to power 4 minus 1, which will be equal to 5,000 into 1 plus 0.015 whole raised to power 4 minus 1. 1 plus 0.015 is nothing but 1.015 raised to the power 4, and its value is 1.061363551. So we have our 5,000, open the bracket, 1.061363551 minus 1. So inside the bracket, when you subtract both the values, you get 0.061363555. This value, when multiplied by 5,000, you get the interest as 306.82. So we got the interest, and we know that the effective rate of interest using this formula, where I stands for interest. So if you have the interest, we can use this formula I equal to P into capital E into T. What is I? 306.82. What is P? 5,000. Capital E you have to find out. T is 1 because you know N is equal to 1 in effective rate of interest. So we have 306.82 equal to 5,000 into E into 1. Now we need to find out the value of E. So keep E on one side and take all the other terms to the other side. By doing this, we get capital E equal to 306.82 divided by 5,000 into 1. So we get effective rate of interest equal to 306.82 divided by 5,000 into 1, which gives the value of E as 0.0613, which is equivalent to saying that it is 6.13%, correct up to 2 decimals. So what is the effective rate of interest? 6.13%. By using the formula I equal to P into capital E into T. Now we may arrive the same result using the other formula, which says capital E is equal to 1 plus I whole raised to n minus 1. What is I? 6 upon 100. That is, R is 6% given to us. So I is 6 upon 100, and it is compounded quarterly, we know that. So E is equal to 1 plus 6 upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1. The value inside the bracket can be simplified, and the answer is 1.0613 minus 1. Hence we get capital E equal to 0.0613 or equivalently 6.13%. So using either of the two formulas, we get the effective rate of interest as 6.13%. But please keep in mind n is equal to 1 here, and we have taken p also equal to 1 here.
Now the fourth type of interest, that is continuous compounding. Now what is the objective of interest? To get better returns. So when we move from annual interest to semi-annual to monthly interest, we have only one objective, that is to get or give a better return to the investor. Now the best deal for any investor would be continuous compounding. What is continuous compounding? When we say that interest is compounded continuously, what do we mean? The interest is calculated at every single moment of the year. Suppose for n equal to 4 years. In this case, there will be many periods. So when interest is compounded continuously on a principal P at R% per annum for n years, the net amount would be written as, or can be written as, A infinity equal to P into e raised to R into n. Why are we writing A infinity? Because the number of periods will tend to infinity. That is why we are going to write A infinity, because the interest is calculated at every single moment. So the number of periods will go to infinity. What is E? E is an irrational number with whose value can be approximately taken as 2.7183. So what is the amount when continuous compounding is done? A infinity is equal to P into e raised to R into n.
Now to understand the application of continuous compounding, let's take an example. An amount of rupees 5,000 is invested at 6% per annum, compounded continuously for 5 years. Find the net amount at the end of the term. What information is given to us? P is rupees 5,000, R is 6%, which is compounded continuously, and n equal to 5. So using the formula for net amount, A infinity equal to P into e raised to R into n, we get 5,000 into 2.7183 whole raised to the power. R is 6%, so it will be 6 into 5 upon 100, because n is 5. R is 6%, so it will be 6 upon 100. So in the numerator you have 6 into 5 and denominator you have 100. When we simplify the power, that is 6 into 5 upon 100, we get it as 0.3. So what is A infinity equal to? 5,000 into 2.7183 whole raised to the power 0.3. Now 2.7183 raised to the power 0.3, its value is 1.349861515. When this value is multiplied by 5,000, we get the net amount as rupees 6,749.307573, which can be taken as rupees 6,749.31, correct up to 2 decimals.
Now we come to annuity. When we extend compound interest, the result is annuity. And when we extend annuity, it is EMI. What is EMI? Equated monthly installments. These days, EMI is quite popular. So what is annuity? It is nothing but a series of equal payments made at equal intervals of time. Now everything these days we buy on EMIs. Now the payments can be annually, half yearly, quarterly or monthly. We can pay these equal payments once in a year, twice in a year, 4 times in a year or 12 times in a year, that is every month. The most common example of monthly annuity is the recurring deposit scheme, which is offered by most of the banks. What does this mean? Every month you deposit a fixed amount in the bank, and after a specific period you get a handsome amount. The other examples are weekly wages or monthly salaries, insurance premiums, etc. Now, to be called annuity, a series of payments or receipts must have the following features. So, a series of payments, if they have to be called as annuity, they must have the following features. What are the features? The first one is the amount received or paid. It must be a constant over the period of annuity, and the time interval between the two consecutive payments should be same. So the time interval between two consecutive payments or receipts must be same. Now, the annuity can be classified into three types based on the mode of periodic payment. The first one, ordinary or immediate annuity. Second, annuity due. The third, deferred annuity. What happens in an ordinary annuity? The periodic payment is made at the end of each period, and the annuity will mature immediately after the last payment is made. This is ordinary annuity. Annuity due. When the periodic payment is made at the beginning of each period, it is called as annuity due. And when the last payment is made, the net benefits of the annuity will be due in one period. What do we mean by deferred annuity? When the periodic payment is made after a lapse of certain number of periods. For example, let's understand this. A poultry farmer who has taken a loan for his enterprise, he is required to pay his first EMI after about 6 months, when his hens begin to lay eggs. So, here the first periodic payment is made after 6 months. So, it is called as deferred annuity. What is perpetual annuity or perpetuity? Annuity payable for indefinite period of time. It is called a perpetual annuity or perpetuity. For examples, there's so many institutions or individuals or an organization who institute scholarship. So, a scholarship instituted on the annual interest accrued on a fixed deposit is perpetuity. Now, an annuity in which payments are made subject to the occurrence of an event is called a contingent annuity. The most popular LIC premium. It comes under contingent annuity since the premium payment stops upon the death of the insured. The future value or accumulated amount of an annuity, it is nothing but the total amount of all periodic payments along with the accrued interest. The way we have future value of an annuity or accumulated amount of annuity, we have present value of annuity or capital value of an annuity. What is capital value or the present value of an annuity? It is one single payment whose net amount is equal to the accumulated amount of the annuity. The term of an annuity is the number of years for which the annuity is in force. So we need to understand all these concepts as far as annuity is concerned. Now we look at the application of ordinary annuity with the help of the formula. We know that in ordinary annuity, periodic payment is made at the end of each period. So we'll consider an ordinary annuity in which the periodic payment is denoted by capital C and is deposited K times in a year at equal intervals of time at R% per annum, compounded at the end of each period. What does small n stand for? The term of the annuity or duration of annuity, that is also in years. Then how do we find accumulated amount denoted by capital A at the end of the term? It is given as C into the numerator is 1 plus R upon K into 100 whole raised to the power Kn minus 1, and the denominator is R upon K into 100, where A stands amount in maturity, C stands for periodic payment installment, and we know R% means rate of interest per annum. Small n stands for duration of annuity in years, and K represents the period when the payments are to be made. Now here we need to make a note of the following. When the period of annuity is yearly, then K will be equal to 1. When the period of annuity is half yearly, K will be equal to 2. And when the period of annuity is quarterly, K will be 4. Likewise, when it is monthly, K will be equal to 12. Now we take one practical example on ordinary annuity, which says Harsha opened a recurring deposit in a bank for 4 years with payments of rupees 5,000 paid at the end of each year. Find the money obtained at the end of period with 6% per annum. Here C is 5,000, R is 6%, N equal to 4 and K is equal to 1. That means the period of annuity is 1. According to the given formula, accumulated value is equal to C into, what is in the numerator? 1 plus R upon K into 100 whole raised to Kn minus 1 whole upon R upon K into 100. Now substituting the relevant values of C, R, N and K, we get 5,000 bracket 1 plus 6 upon 100 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 whole upon 6 upon 100, because the value of K is here 1, which further when simplified we get 5,000 into 1 plus 0.06 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 whole upon 0.06. 1 plus 0.06 is equal to 1.06. So we get A equal to 5,000 bracket 1.06 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 divided by 0.06. Now the value of 1.06 whole raised to the power 4 is 1.2624796. So when you simplify the numerator, we get 5,000 into 0.2624796 divided by 0.06. So the simplification of numeral in the bracket gives us 4.374616, and when multiplied by 5,000 we get it as rupees 21,873.08. So the accumulated value is rupees 21,873.08. Find the amount at the end of 1 year of an annuity of rupees 4,000 payable at each quarter with the rate of interest 12% per annum. Here C is 4,000, N is equal to 1, R is equal to 12% and K equal to 4 because it is payable at each quarter. And how many quarters are there in a year? 4. So K is equal to 4. Using the same formula for accumulated value and putting all the relevant values of C, N, R and K, we get A is equal to 4,000 into 1 plus 12 upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 whole upon 12 divided by 4 into 100, which further gets simplified as 4,000 into 1 plus 3 upon 100 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 divided by 3 upon 100. So inside the bracket, in the numerator we get 1 plus 0.03 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 and the denominator is 0.03, and the value of 1 plus 0.03 is nothing but 1.03. So the numerator becomes 1.03 whole raised to the power 4 minus 1 and the denominator is 0.03. When we find the value of 1.03 whole raised to the power 4, it gives us 1.12550,881. So when you simplify the bracket, we get the answer as 4.183627. And this value, when multiplied by 4,000, gives us rupees 16,734.508. So the amount at the end of 1 year of an annuity of rupees 4,000 payable at each quarter with rate of interest 12% per annum is rupees 16,734.508. We speak about present value of an annuity. What is annuity? It is nothing but periodic payment, a series of periodic payments which are paid at regular time intervals. What is present value of an annuity? It is the current worth of this annuity. We can call it as a capital to be invested, which will give us same yield at the end of the same period and the same rate of interest. We can also understand it as payoff or one-time settlement of the annuity. That is your present value. Suppose I need a sum, we call it as A, after a certain number of years. How many options I have? 2. What is the first option? I start with an annuity of periodic payments of say rupees C, and to achieve my goal, what is my goal? I need a sum A after a certain number of years. So what is the first option? I start with an annuity of periodic payments of rupees C, which will achieve my goal at the time required. Or if I have the money and I can shell out a lump sum capital P just once now and get the same amount A at the end. This is called a one-time payoff, or equivalently a one-time settlement. Now at this point we need to make a note. These periodic payments are in small installments, so means we can easily pay it. That is, a capital saved by avoiding the one-time payoff can be utilized for some other venture. What does this mean? When you're making periodic payments at equal intervals of time, these periodic payments are small in amount and which can be easily paid. So what are you doing? You have some money with you. So this capital can be saved by avoiding the one-time payoff. And whatever saved capital you have, you can invest it in other venture or you can invest it elsewhere. For example, you have a lump sum amount and you do not require it for some time. It is just lying idle with you. Then you can do one-time payoff and then relax. The sum of all the periodic installments of the annuity is always more than this one-time payoff. So one-time payoff is your option, then you can save on this difference. So the sum of all the periodic installments of annuity will always be greater than the one-time payoff. So if you decide to do one-time payoff, then you can save the difference. Now in case I want to sell the annuity, then its present value must be known. So its present value is essential to know its sale price. This is in case when I decide to sell the annuity. Now for example, your mother wants to give you rupees 1000 at the end of every year, that is on 31st of December. Suppose this is 1st of Jan and you get 1000 rupees. So at the end of 5 years, you will have 5000 rupees. But what do you say? I don't want at the end of the year. You give me lump sum 5 years now so that you can invest it. So in this case, what happens? Your year-end gift amount rupees, that is the present value, is calculated as an upon 1 plus I whole raised to the power n. So then the first year you get 1000 rupees. What will be the present value? 1000 divided by 1 plus I raised to the power 1. My rate of interest is 10% suppose. So what is I? R upon 100. So 10 upon 100 is nothing but 0.1. So 1 plus 0.1 whole raised to the power 1. That gives me 1.1 raised to the power 1. So at the end of the first year, your present value will be 1000 divided by 1.1, which will give you 909.091. Similarly, at the end of the second year, it will be 1000 divided by 1 plus I whole raised to the power 2. That gives you 826.446. Similarly, for the fifth year, what is your present value? 620.921. Similarly, we find out the present value of 1000 at end of 5 years. So when I add up all these values, the present value will be rupees 3790.786 approximately. So the present value of annuity of rupees 1000 for 5 years at 10% is rupees 3790.79. Correct up to 2 decimals. It means if you want lump sum payment today, instead of rupees 1000 every year, you will get rupees 3790.79. Let's look at the formula to find out the present value of an ordinary annuity, which is given as present value is equal to C times, the numerator is 1 minus 1 plus R upon K times 100 raised to the power minus Kn whole upon R upon K into 100. What does C stand for? It is a periodic payment. R% is the rate of interest per annum. N is the duration of annuity in years. It is always given in terms of years. And what is K? K could be 1, 2, 4 or 12 depending upon the period of the annuity, which can be yearly, half yearly, quarterly and monthly. Now to understand the application of the present value, let's look at an example which says find the present value of an annuity of rupees 2000 paid at the end of each year for 4 years at 11% compounded annually. So let's make a note of the information given to us. What is given to us? Present value of an annuity of rupees 2000. What is this 2000? C. C is equal to 2000. R percentage, that is rate of percent, is 11% per annum, which is compounded annually. N equal to 4 years. Since it is compounded annually, value of K will be equal to 1. Now this is the formula of present value. You are going to put the values of C, R, N and K in this formula of present value, and after simplifying you get the present value as 6204.8926. Now you can make a note of a small point here. R upon 100 can be taken as I. So if you substitute I for R upon 100, your formula will become little simple to write. Let's take one more example. Mr. X purchased an LCD TV worth rupees 70,000 with a down payment of rupees 10,000 and quarterly installments of equal amount for 1 year. What is the quarterly installment if the company wishes to get 12% per annum compound interest? So here what happens? Mr. X purchases an LCD TV. What is the cost? What is the worth of this TV? 70,000. And how does he purchase this TV? He makes a down payment of rupees 10,000 and he is going to make quarterly installments of equal amount for 1 year. We want to know what is the quarterly installment if the company wishes to get 12% per annum compound interest. So first let's make a note of what is given to us. What is the present value of TV? 70,000 minus 10,000, which will be 60,000. So the present value of TV will be 60,000. R is equal to 12%, N equal to 1 and K will be equal to 4 because he is going to make quarterly installments of equal amount for 1 year. You have to find the value of C. What is C? The amount of the quarterly installment is C. That is unknown here, we have to find out. Again same, we use the same formula for present value. Here present value is 60,000. So you have 60,000 on the left hand side and on the right hand side C is unknown, and inside the bracket you will have in the numerator 1 minus bracket 1 plus 12 upon 4 into 100 whole raised to the power minus 4 into 1. That is the numerator, and denominator will get 12 upon 4 into 100 because the value of K is 4, N equal to 1 year and R is 12%. So by simplifying the right hand side, the numerator, what do you get? 1 minus 1 plus 0.03 whole raised to the power minus 4, and the denominator will be 0.03. Now 1 plus 0.03 is 1.03. So we will have to find out the value of 1.03 whole raised to the power minus 4, which is nothing but 0.888487047. So when you say 1 minus this value, we get it as 0.111512952. When this value is divided by 0.03, we get it as 3.717098403. Now we want the value of C, that is the quarterly installment, which will be nothing but 60,000 divided by 3.717098403, which is equivalent to 16,141.62271. So approximately your quarterly installment is rupees 16,142. Similar question with a little variation. Mr. Kulkarni bought a 1-ton AC with a cash payment of rupees 5,000 and monthly installments of rupees 2,500 each. What is the cost of AC if the company charges 12% interest compounded annually? So what will be the cost of AC? It will be nothing but cash payments plus the present value. What is the cash payment? 5,000 plus the present value. So we have the cash payment as 5,000. So now we need to find out the present value. So the information given to us is C equal to 2,500, N equal to 4 months, K equal to 12, R percent is 12%. Why N equal to 4 months? He is making 4 monthly installments and the rate is 12% per annum given to you compounded annually. So this n equal to 4 months need to be converted into years because n is always given in terms of years. This is our formula to find out the present value. We're going to substitute the values of C, N, K and R. So when we do so, what will be our present value? 2500 into the bracket 1 minus 1 plus R is 12, K is 12 into 100 whole raised to minus Kn. K is minus 12, N will be 4 upon 12 because we have to convert N equal to 4 months into years, which is nothing but 4 upon 12. And in the denominator we get 12 upon 12 into 100. So we get present value equal to 2500 into the bracket 1 minus 1 plus 0.01 whole raised to the power minus 4 divided by 0.01, which will give us as 2500 into 1 minus 1.01 whole raised to the power minus 4 divided by 0.01. The value of 1.01 raised to the power minus 4 is 0.960980344. So when we put the value of this in the equation, we get present value equal to 2500 multiplied by 1 minus 0.960980344 divided by 0.01, which will be equal to 2500 into 0.039019655 divided by 0.01, which gives us 2500 into 3.9019655551, and the final answer 9754.913878. So the cost of AC is cash payment plus present value. So cash payment is 5000, so 5000 plus 9754.913878 will give you 14,754.91388, which can be approximately taken as 14,755. So the cost of AC is equal to rupees 14,755 approximately. So we look into another problem with a little variation but application of present value. A sum was borrowed at 24% interest to be compounded monthly. It was repaid in 12 equal installments of rupees 1,300 each, paid at the end of each month. Find the sum borrowed. Now, what is it saying? Rate of interest is 24%, which is compounded monthly. So you're going to repay it in 12 equal installments. So here K will be 12 and N will be equal to 1 because 12 equal installments monthly. So N will be 1 year, K will be 12. And what is the amount of equal installment? Rupees 1,300. So C will be equal to rupees 1,300. Our percent is 24%. So the present value of this annuity will be the sum borrowed. So let's find out the present value of this annuity using the same above formula. So in this formula, you are going to put the value of C as 1,300, R as 24%, K equal to 12 and N equal to 1. So value of C has to be replaced by 1,300. So inside the bracket we get 1 minus, again open the bracket, 1 plus 24 upon 12 into 100 whole raised to the power minus 12 into 1, because K is equal to 12 and N equal to 1. And in the denominator we get 24 upon 12 into 100. Now when you simplify the denominator, that is 24 upon 1200, you get it as 2 upon 100. And this 2 upon 100, when it is taken to the numerator, it becomes 100 upon 2. So we get 1,300 into 100 upon 2. And what remains in the bracket? 1 minus 1.02 whole raised to the power minus 12. And when we simplify this, you get the value as 13,747.935. Therefore, the sum borrowed is rupees 13,747.935, which can be taken as approximately 13,748. Now let's understand what is capital expenditure or investment decision. Now when you are purchasing any asset, that is nothing but outflow of money, and you are purchasing this asset anticipating that you will get some benefit during the course of time, that is called as cash inflow. So what is capital expenditure?
It means purchasing an asset, that is outflow of money, today in anticipation of benefits, that is cash inflow, which would flow across the life of the investment. Now, for taking such investment decisions, what we do is we compare the present value of cash outflow and present value of cash inflow. By comparing these two, we can take investment decision. So how do we take this investment decision? If the present value of cash inflow is greater than the present value of cash outflow, then the decision should be in the favor of investment, because our inflow is greater than the outflow. So you get better benefits. So the decision should be in the favor of investment. Now let's understand with the help of an example. So we have this example. A machine can be purchased for rupees 50,000 and machine will contribute rupees 12,000 per year for the next 5 years. Assume that borrowing cost is 10% per annum, compounded annually. Determine whether the machine should be purchased or not. Now, what is given to us? Your R is 10%. Machine will contribute rupees 12,000. So your C is 12,000. Machine will contribute rupees 12,000 per year for the next 5 years. So your N is 5 years. It is compounded annually. So K is equal to 1. So here you have to make a decision. How will you make a decision? Depending upon the present value of outflow and present value of inflow of the machine. Let's see how to do it. We are going to use the same above formula here of the present value. Now, present value of inflow of machine is equal to same formula, C into 1 minus bracket 1 plus R upon K into 100 whole raised to the power minus Kn divided by R upon K times 100. So we are going to put the values C as 12,000, K as 1, N equal to 5, R equal to 10. So by substituting these values, we get present value of inflow of machine will be equal to 12,000 into 1 minus bracket 1 plus 10 upon 1 into 100 whole raised to the power minus 5 divided by 10 upon 100. 10 upon 100 is 0.1. So we get 12,000 into 1 minus bracket 1 plus 0.1 whole raised to the power minus 5 divided by 0.1. That gives us 12,000 into 1 minus 1.1 raised to the power minus 5 divided by 0.1. 1.1 raised to the power minus 5 is nothing but 0.620921323 divided by 0.1. So when we simplify this numerator, 1 minus 0.620921323, we get 0.379078676 in the numerator, and in the denominator we have 0.1. Simplifying the bracket, we get 12,000 into 3.790786769, which will be approximately equal to 45,489.44123. Now here, what is the present value of outflow of machine is rupees 50,000. And present value of inflow is 45,489. So, present value of inflow is less than present value of outflow. So, machine should not be purchased. So, we have made an investment decision here by comparing the present value of inflow and present value of the outflow.
Now, let's talk about sinking fund. What is sinking fund? Now, many a times during the course of our life, we anticipate some expenditure in future. So for this so-called expenditure that we are going to anticipate in future, we would like to keep some money ready aside for this particular expenditure so that it can be taken care of. The most common example of sinking fund is the housing societies. So what the housing societies they do, they like to have a certain amount ready for the repairs of the buildings which may be needed in future. So to get this certain amount ready, what do? They collect periodically a fixed contribution from each of their members. So when they're going to collect periodically a fixed contribution, from each of their members. That means it is going to be a series of periodic payments or contribution over a fixed interval of time. They do this to build the required fund. Such a collection is called a sinking fund, and this sinking fund is an interest earning fund. Now whatever amount we collect, that is the sinking fund, it need not be for only building repairs. They can be for machineries in factory, vehicles in a transportation company, and so on. Sinking fund can be considered as an annuity in which the duration, periods and the periodic payments are decided on the basis of the monetary requirements at the completion of the annuity. So how do you decide the duration, periods and the periodic payments? They are decided on the monetary requirement. How much amount do you need? So all these things are kept in mind to decide about the duration, periods and the periodic payments. So the example on sinking funds can be handled with the same formula as we did for annuity.
Now we come to compound interest and effective rate of interest. How much will 25,000 amount to in 2 years at compound interest if the rates for the successive years are 4%, 5% per year respectively? You want to find out how much to 25,000 will amount in 2 years. And what is the rate of interest for the first year? 4%. Rate of interest for the second year is 5% respectively. So the amount will be equal to P times 1 plus R1 upon 100 into 1 plus R2 upon 100, so on, 1 plus Rn upon 100, where R1 is the rate of interest per year for the first year, R2 is the rate of interest per year for the second year, and so on. And Rn will be the rate of interest per year for the nth year. And we know that compound interest is equal to amount minus principal. So let's first find out the amount. So amount is equal to 25,000 multiplied by 1 plus 4 upon 100 into 1 plus 5 upon 100. So amount is equal to 25,000 into 104 upon 100 into 105 upon 100. So A is equal to 25,000 into 1.04 plus 1.05. And when you multiply all these three numbers, you get amount as rupees 27,300. Now moving on to the 10th illustration, we have to find the effective rate equivalent to the nominal rate at 16% per annum when compounded half yearly and quarterly. Find compound interest also if the amount is rupees 20,000. Now we know that compound interest is given by the formula P times 1 plus R upon M into 100 raised to Mn minus 1. Here M will be equal to 2 because it is half yearly, and N equal to 1. So substituting the values, we get the compound interest as 20,000 times 1 plus 16. Compound interest will be equal to 20,000 times 1 plus 16 upon 2 into 100 raised to 2 into 1. So compound interest is equal to 20,000 times 1 plus 16 upon 2 into 100 raised to 2 minus 1, because M equal to 2 and N equal to 1. So by simplification, we get 20,000 times 1 plus 8 upon 100 raised to 2 minus 1. So compound interest equal to 20,000 times 1 plus 0.08 square minus 1. So 20,000 into 1.08 raised to the power 2 minus 1 will give you 20,000 into 1.1664 minus 1. That gives us 20,000 into 0.1664, which is 3,328. So this is the compound interest. Now we want to find out the effective rate of interest. So effective rate of interest denoted by E is given by 1 plus I upon Mn raised to Mn minus 1, where I is equal to 16 upon 100, that is 0.16. So using this formula, effective rate of interest will be equal to 1 plus 0.16 upon 2 into 1 raised to power 2 minus 1. So that gives us 1 plus 0.08 raised to the power 2 minus 1, that is equal to 1.1664 minus 1. So effective rate of interest will be equal to 0.1664. Therefore effective rate of interest per rupee per year is 0.1664. Therefore effective rate of interest % per per year will be equal to 100 into 0.1664, which is equal to 16.64, and the nominal rate is 16%. So your effective rate of interest is 16.64% per year and your nominal rate is 16%. Now please make a note here. If your compound interest is known, effective rate of interest can be calculated using the formula compound interest is equal to P into E into T, where T is the time period, E is the effective rate of interest in decimal, and P is the principal amount. Using the above formula and putting all the values, we get 3325 equal to 20,000 into E into 1, where T is the time period, that is equal to 1. So E will be equal to 3325 divided by 20,000, that gives us 0.1664, and effective rate of interest percent per year is 100 into 0.1664, which gives you 16.64%. It is the same as obtained by the alternate formula. Now m equal to 4 and n equal to 1 because it is compounded quarterly. So when it is compounded quarterly, what will be your compound interest? The formula is P times 1 plus R upon m into 100 raised to mn minus 1. Substituting the values m equal to 4, n equal to 1 and P equal to 20,000, R is 16%. We get compound interest equal to 20,000 bracket 1 plus 0.04 raised to the power 4 minus 1. When you simplify 1 plus 16 upon 4 into 100, you get 1 plus 0.04 and the power is 4 minus 1. So 20,000 times 1.04 raised to 4 minus 1, which gives us 20,000 into 0.16985,856. And after multiplication, we get the compound interest as 3,397.1712. And to find out the effective rate of interest, using the formula E equal to 1 plus I upon mn in raised to mn minus 1, where I equal to 16 upon 100. So substituting the formulas, we get E is equal to 1 plus I upon 4 into 1 raised to 4 into 1 minus 1. That is 1 plus 0.16 upon 4 raised to 4 minus 1. So E will be equal to 1 plus 0.04 raised to 4 minus 1, which gives us 1.16985856 minus 1, which will be equal to 0.16985856. Effective rate of interest per rupee 1 per year is 0.16985856. Therefore, effective rate of interest percent per year is 100 into 0.16985856, which gives us 16.985856. Approximately, you can take it as 16.99%. And if you use the compound interest formula, that is to find out the effective rate of interest, the formula is compound interest is equal to P into E into T, where P is the principal, E is the effective rate and T is the time period. We get it as 3,397.1712 equal to 20,000 into E into 1. Therefore, E will be equal to 3,397.1712 divided by 20,000. After simplification, we get E as 0.16985856, which is same as above. Therefore, effective rate of interest percent per year is 100 into this value, which gives us 16.985856%, approximately 16.99%. Now moving on to the 14th illustration, how much should be deposited at the beginning of each year for 10 years in order to provide a sum of rupees 50,000 at the end of 10 years. The interest rate is 10% per annum. Future value of annuity. Step 1, calculate future value as if it is an ordinary annuity. Here the difference is you are depositing at the beginning of each year, not at the end of each year. Beginning of the each year means it is annuity due. So future value of annuity due, what do? Calculate first the future value as if it is an ordinary annuity and multiply the result by 1 plus I. So what is the future value of annuity? As we did in the above, x times 1 plus I raised to n minus 1 upon I, where I is equal to R upon 100, that is 10 upon 100 is equal to 0.1. So 1 plus I will be equal to 1 plus 0.1 equal to 1.1. So future value of annuity is equal to x times 1.1 raised to 10 minus 1 upon 0.1. Now you know that future value is 50,000, so 50,000 is equal to 1.1, because you have to multiply the future value of annuity by 1 plus I, that is equal to 1.1. So 1.1 into future value of annuity, that is x into 1.1 raised to 10 minus 1 upon 0.1. So we get 50,000 equal to 1.1x bracket 2.59374246 minus 1 upon 0.1. So 50,000 is equal to 1.1x times 1.59374246 divided by 0.1. Therefore 50,000 equal to 1.1x into 15.9374246. So 1.1x will be equal to 50,000 divided by 15.9374246, which gives us 3137.269744. So the value of x will be 3137.269744 divided by 1.1, and that gives us 2852.06, approximately 2852. So how much should be deposited at the beginning of each year? For 10 years, in order to provide a sum of rupees 50,000 at the end of 10 years, you have to deposit rupees 2852 at the beginning of each year for 10 years. Now moving on to the illustration number 16. R&D company wants to create a sinking fund of rupees 5 lakh after 10 years. Find the annual installment at 8% per annum compounded annually to get it. Now sinking fund is calculated using the formula for accumulated value, that is A, of an immediate annuity. For immediate annuity, the accumulated value is given as C upon I. Sinking fund is calculated using the formula for accumulated value A of an immediate annuity C. So the accumulated value for immediate annuity C is given as C upon I times 1 plus I raised to n minus 1, where here A is equal to 5 lakh, N equal to 10, R equal to 8%, so I will be 8 upon 100, that is 0.08. Putting all these values in the accumulated value formula for an immediate annuity, we get 5 lakh equal to C upon 0.08 times 1 plus 0.08 raised to 10 minus 1. So 5 lakh into 0.08 will be equal to C times 1.08 raised to 10 minus 1. So 5 lakh into 0.08 gives you 40,000, which is equal to C times 2.158924 minus 1. So 40,000 equal to C times 1.158924. Therefore C will be equal to 40,000 upon 1.158924, which is equal to 34,514.774, approximately rupees 34,515. So the installment amount will be rupees 34,515.